maybe you should go vegetarian. And she said, no, he had been for 6 months and it got worse.
Dr. Premaratna, how did you find carnivore?
Well, actually, I found out about carnivore, but not as carnivore. About 25 years ago, I had a friend. Her husband had severe ulcerative colitis and a lot of bleeding. And they didn't ask me for advice, but I just suggested, maybe you should go vegetarian. That's based on my educational training. And she said, no, he had been for 6 months and it got worse. But now he's only eating meat and fat and he stopped. So, I didn't inquire any further. I thought to myself, well, what about cancer? What about all those thoughts that, you get with the meat only diet? So then about 2 months ago, I had a patient, a young girl, 25-year-old. Parents brought her to see me because she had type 1 diabetes and they had got it under control. They brought her to see me for a different purpose. They had got the insulin and everything, and the blood sugar was under control. But then they heard about, I think, Dr. Bernstein's book, and after that, they put her on a carnivore diet. And she is absolutely wonderful person. She stuck to it, and within, I think, about 2 months, they got all the blood sugar under control without the fast acting and slow acting insulin. So the reason why they brought her to see me was because they want to know why did it happen when she was 15? Why not when she was 5? So I do my testing and I found that she was exposed to a certain toxic protein that most people are getting exposed to these days, and that her weak spot was the pancreas because of past high sugar, high carb diet, and that kind of collapsed the pancreas. So I did what I could to clear all the proteins and got back on that. And that's the first time I heard. So I thought, kind of in support for her, and that kind of inspired me to try the carnivore diet. But I've been on very low carb diet for a while, but was never really getting me the results I wanted, because I would kind of move away from it. Weekends I might have dinner, with family, and then I'd have some rice. And so, but with carnivore, I really liked it because even as a child, I'm originally from Sri Lanka. I really didn't like vegetable. I like meat, fish. I had to have something like that. Without it, I wouldn't eat. So this kind of perfectly fit my palate. So I really started, and I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to it. So and then I started. I mean, I watched many of your videos. They're fantastic, with many people, and then Dr. Kenberry, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, all the regular doctors, and Dr. Owadia. So I was quite convinced, because of my background in food and nutritional science and biochemistry, that this is really valid, not just a kind of fad, had scientific basis. So I haven't had dramatic kind of results because I was all right. I didn't have any major issues, and I had a, like I saw yours. You had a knee problem. I was in Japan, in Tokyo, and I had a very bad fall, and I hit my knee, and that had given me a little bit of pain when I go up the driveway. I could feel the pain, and that had gone away by about 90%. If I run, I don't feel the pain, but if I walk slowly, I could still feel it. Then I had the rotator cuff injury. I couldn't rotate. That's complete, 100% gone within this, say, maybe 6 weeks. And back stress, like if I sit for one hour and I get up, I feel a little bit stiff in the morning, a bit stiff. If I drive for 40 minutes, I can feel the stiffness, but that's completely gone. And other than that, feel energy, um, because I see about sometimes 8 or 9 patients a day and spend 1 hour each and do a lot of talking and a lot of a full comprehensive test. So this 8 hours, and I have half an hour lunch break. I feel, at the end of the day, I still feel tired. I'm not full of energy. So I think it's because of the diet. Before, I would be like, by the end, by 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, I'm ready to go home. So that's how and like right now, I'm having long black with some butter in it, which I enjoy. So today we went to a Korean restaurant because my daughter treated me. my wife and I. So we had it was like a barbecue and eat as much as you want. So uh, normally I would have some of the potato salad and all the other stuff, but today just only beef and some pork, and that's it. And I was happy with that. So what I what I'm seeing when I was watching a lot of the videos and through my own experience with patients, when anyone loses fat, I didn't weigh myself. I was about 95 kilos, which is about 15 pounds or 15 kilos to 20 kilos over my weight. So I haven't weighed myself because I made it a point. I'm not going to weigh. I'm just going to watch my body shape change. And I've now had to poke one more hole in my belt, and I can see some of the muscle definitions showing up. And I'm not a outdoor person. I don't like jogging, so I have my own indoor places where I exercise. I have some dumbbells. I did martial arts, Japanese martial art, Kyokushin karate. So I do the punching with the dumbbells and stuff like that, which I can do at home. So I know I can see one of the things I can see my endurance has changed, a lot more endurance. And what I was going to say is when you lose fat, there's a lot of toxic chemicals that we store in the fatty tissue. And when they start to release, people get all kinds of unusual detox reactions. So my job is when people go on fat loss diets or exercise, try to support it through herbs and vitamins to help eliminate those toxic chemicals. And that might be something useful for your listeners, that if they do experience large amount of fat that been metabolized, what happens for most people is unless you go on something like carnivore diet or strict keto diet, the body will release a little bit of toxins from the fat, and the liver sends feedback to slow down. Say too much for my overloads the liver. So then fat loss goes into a plateau. So it's important to kind of, so I help a lot of patients with managing their fat loss without getting any adverse reactions.
So, just when you talk about your practice,
Yeah.
what kind of practice do you have?
I call it nutritional medicine because my PhD is in food and nutritional science, but I specialize in human nutrition, microbiology, biotechnology, biochemistry. So I always try to look at when somebody comes, what is the cause rather than the symptoms. Somebody might have osteoarthritis, but I like try to find out what is underlying. So a lot of times it's a toxic load that increases your uric acid content, and there are many things that we can see. I do also dark field microscopy, take a drop of blood, look under the microscope, and you can see evidence of these chemicals and oxidative stress. So it's mostly nutritional medicine, but I use some Ayurvedic medicine uh, uh, parts and some Chinese medicine. I combine homeopathy, herbs. So based on the assessment, I try to find the best particular best possible treatment protocol.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
And the thing that kind of shocked me there is you spending about 1 hour with each patient in a
Yeah.
day, and you're in Australia, right? And so
Yeah.
that just seems a little bit odd for an Australian doctor to be spending an hour with a patient.
One thing is I'm not a GP. I'm not a general practitioner. I'm not a medical practitioner. I have a PhD. So, and my main aim is to listen to the person, get all the information as much as I can. Then I do my assessment. I do some. I have a unique system of using bioenergetic techniques to send a signal through the acupuncture meridian. We get a response back in, and then the blood. So when I combine those things, I see a pattern of causative factors. So that it takes time. It takes first of all, you had to listen to the person what they say, but they know, a patient knows usually what's the problem. Then once I listen, take the history. Some people is short. Some people, like recently saw one person. I had to write whole one A4 page full of information, and then I do the assessment, and then I create the protocol. But I also end with a little bit of mind body work. Like as I teach meditation, I teach Reiki. So I do a short treatment for them so that they can feel what is the relaxed state. what is the relaxation response, because most of people are in fight or flight response. So giving them a little bit of a taste of how it should be, that encourages them to continue with the protocol. Then I follow up with some meditation and I teach classes, online classes. So that's my practice. I was in US for 14 years. Since 1978, I was in, when first went to Hawaii. My sister lived there, so I did my bachelor's and master's at University of Hawaii. Then I went to Purdue University in Indiana, did my PhD. Then I went further up to Wisconsin, and I did my PhD. And I worked as a research scientist, managing research lab, working with bacterial nutrition. And then I moved to Australia. So I've been here since 1992, and I've been in practice for 32 years now, in the same spot in
Wow.
Mossman.
In Mossman.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
So, and for international people watching,
Mhm.
that's in Sydney, right?
It's in the lower North Shore, Sydney. Yeah.
Mm. So actually, one other thing that you mentioned before, you said you were
Yeah.
drinking a long black. So
Yeah.
just for international audiences, what is a long black?
Well, it's just a plain black coffee and without anything, but I put a slice of butter in it. I used to
And it's
put cream.
pretty strong, right?
Yeah, I can make it sometime if I'm outside, like if I go, if I have I would have a week long black, but
Oh,
at home I have a regular coffee and yeah, that's my treat.
right. So, in your practice, have you introduced this way of eating to anyone so far, and what kind of reaction have you had?
Yeah, and that's very interesting because I'm slowly introducing it. And I'm surprised by some patients say, I'm already doing that. And I say, great, fantastic. Just recently, I had a young lady and she said she had a lot of digestive issues. She said, I can only eat beef and lamb. I said, oh, great. So it's more like a carnivore diet. And the mother said, yes, that's what I wanted to hear because she was trying to get the daughter to change. And so there are a few patients who already know. I feel like more and more people are getting to know, mainly because of like the YouTube channels like yours and all the other people sharing. And but I have to be careful because people's mindset is still so much in that old paradigm, and I have to go slowly, introduce maybe slowly low carb, and then, if necessary, to carnivore like zero carb. So, but I think yeah, I'm convinced, and I don't think this is a short term thing for me. It's going to be more like a lifestyle, not a diet. And I'm 60. I'll be 68 next year, so I want to keep as fit as possible and as healthy as possible to help more people. And my daughter is 28, my son is 25, so they are still at home, and we enjoy having them. So I want to spend more time with them. So this is seems to be the perfect way to keep my health.
Yeah. So, how has family reacted to this? Because I imagine my kind of image of a standard traditional Sri Lankan way of eating is not this. So,
No, no, definitely. My wife is from Thailand. Of course, it's not that much different. Mostly rice, noodles. My daughter and son, of course, they are Australian. So they are used to the Australian diet plus some Asian. Yeah, it's they are kind of, they were worried at first, eating so much fat. But after 1 month, I think because they are seeing my change in terms of, they see me, I have lost some weight and I feel more energetic. And then now my wife is, it's her project now. So she's looking at what is the best meat to get, grass fed beef. And so I'm very happy because I don't have to worry about it. I have my dinner. So I'm now trying to see if I can bring it to, I'm having only 2 meals a day at the moment, but I feel like I could cut down to one. That would make it life much easier for me and for my wife. Like you're having only one meal, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. On most days, yeah, it's just one.
Most
Yeah,
days, yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so, have your kids expressed any interest in it at all, or are they just okay? Well, you do what you want to do. That's fine.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I my daughter was went vegan for about a year, and then now she's back to eating meat and other things, but not. I don't think I don't see them going into uh, like a full carnivore diet. Maybe, yeah. I just leave them alone. I said, you know, if by example, if I can show that I'm getting better, maybe they might get interested, but we'll see how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the pricing like on beef in Australia? Is it pretty accessible?
Yeah. Now there are a few places like we have a Aldi store, and that's they're pretty good. I don't know a lot about the pricing because my wife now takes over the shopping. So maybe $25 a kilo, $17, and ground beef would be cheaper. Um, Now quite a few places have grass-fed, grass-finished beef. So mostly beef. So it's getting better.
How much money would I need to give you to stop doing carnivore, to go back to a regular diet?
I don't think you can give me any money because I think to me health and how I feel. I mean, this is only 6 weeks, so I would say I should go for 3 months to really notice something. But I think I would not change that. Yeah, I value my health more than anything else. So I think this is something that I really enjoy because I like meat, I like beef. Even though my background is in Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy, and I do meditation and look at non-violence and all of the concepts and loving kindness, but I had to make a decision to give up all meats, all animal products, and go on a vegan diet and be unhealthy and be not be able to help myself or others is not 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 right. So I thought I will do the carnivore diet, be healthy, and be of help to many people. So that is my sacrifice.
You're not going to accept any money from me, and don't worry, I've got no money to give, so this is only a
Yeah,
hypothetical.
I know.
But you don't earn
For a
much in
moment, I
Japan
thought,
as a
huh?
foreigner. But so what's the number one reason that you wouldn't want to go? Is it just generally about health? Is it some particular thing you've already experienced? Is it the convenience? What's the number one reason?
Number one reason is health because I feel. Uh, I mean, I had symptoms. If I eat some fruit and other, vegetables, I feel a bit bloated next morning, and I have nothing now. So it's a really a lot of comfort and also convenience because I can eat, simple to do. And the health aspect is probably the number one. And I'm expecting in the next 3 months to lose another, maybe come back to my normal weight, which is should be about 80 kilos, about 80. I'm 95. I haven't weighed recently, but might have gone down. That's the main reason. And then not having any inflammation. That's definitely. So many people now have a lot of inflammation related problems like diabetes, dementia. A very high number of people with dementia. I see patients with their parents having these problems. So children having all this. I don't like labels like ADHD and all these things, but I look at things as an imbalance. We try to balance things nutritionally and energetically. So we see generations, children, parents, and the grandparents all having problems with inflammation. So I think the more people share their stories, I mean, that is the key thing because when you look at the comments, how many people have benefited this? I've never seen anything like this before. So I don't have a YouTube channel or anything, but I might start something that's mainly for health and wellness and introduce the carnivore diet through that. So I haven't done it
Ju-
yet.
Just talking about like the parents, the grandparents, the kids, that
Hmm.
kind of thing. Often we talk about how some diseases are genetic, they're passed down. I always kind of wonder now, that I know that a lot more things are related to food than we thought, you know, is is the genetic component really just, to put this, not to disparage any patient
Mm,
anywhere, but
mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like, well,
Mm,
that's what my mum did. That's what my grandmother did. So I'm just going to continue that, whether it's eating to excess, whether it's always eating junk food, whether it's always buying particular types of
mhm.
food, that kind of thing.
There's definitely something that I see almost every day in my patients and in my own family. I can see very clearly, and in myself and my family, my parents. There are two inheritances. One is that genetically you get some genetic mutations and a few things like, maybe diabetic genes and whatever. I don't quite put a lot of weight onto this genetic thing unless you have a congenital problem where you're born with like blindness or something. Other genetic issues, always there has to be a trigger to stimulate express that gene. If you don't have that stimulus, the signal, then you won't get that. That's why that girl got diabetes type 1 at 15. That the signal was glucose that was coming, and there was an extra protein that caused the problem. So you get that there is a genetic inheritance which is very minor, but there is a chemical inheritance. That means the mother had, for example, dental amalgams, mercury, or some other toxic chemical. It can migrate through the placenta to the embryo, and the baby gets stimulated, the immune system gets sensitized even before birth. And then the 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, the vaccines had mercury, thimerosal, and that would overstimulate the immune system. So now you're in a hypersensitive state. Anything else that comes, you react. So that is one inheritance. The other, even bigger one is, as you said, it's the parents. Like my father had diabetes. Now he trained me very well with a lot of love to eat sweets. He would bring a little package of candy, and he wouldn't take care of his diabetes. He would eat all the sugar he wants, and he'll inject himself insulin. So, so I got that sweet tooth. I love ice cream. I like croissant breads. These are my favorites. And being in under British colonial kind of rule in Sri Lanka, we got, and before that we had Portuguese, Dutch, and British. So all those foods got integrated into our diet. The traditional Sri Lankan diet would be some rice, some lots of vegetables, and meat and protein. But with the influence of these occupations and from the country, you got all these new things like beautiful pastries, all those breads. So, so from the family, you get that habit. Now I can tell you very easily, very clearly. My daughter follows my wife because they go out to eat together. And if my wife says, "Oh, I love this food," and she will like to, like that kind of food. So they eat very similarly. So that's how you get introduced to high carbohydrate diets. And so the diet is, as you said, it's coming from a lot of things are from parents and the family influence. So unless somebody breaks away from that and then this one on their own, yeah.
It's very interesting, and I feel like, over time I've started to realize that just a lot of the things that you're taught or you're led to believe as you're growing up about
Yeah.
food and about nutrition and medicine and all that
Yeah.
kind of thing, it's not quite right. There's something, because it's almost like, because there's a marketing message subtly
Of course.
integrated in there, it's,
Yeah. Yeah. There's, I see patients, especially depending on their background, like somebody would say, if I say, "Oh, can you go on a low carb diet?" Well, you cannot eat bread, you cannot eat pasta. Oh, but I'm Italian. I cannot do without that. And recently I had one lady said, I, I sent her a video about the carnivore diet. I said she definitely needs it because she has insulin resistance. And first thing she said was, I'm not going to just eat beef and salt water, drink salt water. She said, I want my food freedom. So I started telling her, well, of course you can have food freedom temporarily. You have this freedom, you have your choice, but you're getting into a prison without even knowing, because once you get into diabetes, then where's your freedom? You can of course still have the freedom by putting some drug into your body and eating still, keeping your diet, but people don't see that. So I decided to go with her very gently and show the negative effects if you modify, slowly start with a maybe modified low carb diet, a modified keto diet, and then if see benefits they might see. But the thing is, when you begin to feel the benefits, it's easier to change.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I went on Atkins,
Hmm.
um, I just after a few days, the difference that I felt
Yeah,
was
yeah,
unbelievable. I never felt as good, and it's that kind of it's that reinforcing mechanism. It's like, no, 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 you don't need the other stuff because you're feeling so good now,
that's right.
but
Yeah,
you do have to get to that point, right?
yeah. I did the Atkins protein power doctor eats. I think all of those, and but I think this is the first time that I was able to. I think I know that I will stick to this because it, and I have the support from my wife because she's that's a big thing because the family if they have support, and that's why I think for most people if there's a community like what you're creating a community, and many people are creating these communities, and if they are part of that community they get more supported and they can stay with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's thinking back to my Atkins time in
Mhm.
2000, it was like I felt great, but there was no one I could talk to, and anyone that I did talk to about it was telling me I was crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, it is important to have a community, whether it's just listening to videos or having a forum you
of
can go
course,
to chat to
definitely.
people or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
Atkins diet was also, it wasn't a very, I mean, it has changed so much that, you have all these bars and everything with some oils, and it's not the pure. So this is the, I think, the very pure way of eating. And according to your genetics and physiology, which is what we need.
yeah, I agree. So, imagine you were talking to a patient about this and
Hmm.
you said, "Give carnivore a try. This is a way that, works with your physiology." And they said, "But hang on, we should be eating vegetables for our physiology." Like, how would you counter that?
I will, I think the best way is I can explain a little bit my own experience because I assumed that I needed fiber, and I used to have quite a bit of high fiber. But now I haven't had any vegetables or fruits for 6 weeks. I had no issues with bowel movements; they were all good. So I would tell them about my experience and also talk about the nutrients that are not easy to access in the vegetables. And there are so many anti-nutrients. I knew about those for a long time, plant anti-nutrients and toxins. And there are sent some good videos that from doctors who are talking about it. And that's what I'm trying to do now to kind of select some good interviews with doctors. Like Paul Mason has some good ones on cholesterol. Those are the questions people ask. What about cholesterol? What about heart disease? What about cancer? So that's how I would explain and gently kind of, because when I test, they can see the results of the various organs. I test for 20 organs and see, okay, pancreas is at this point now. So next time, if you stick to it even halfway, 50%, see how much it changes. And then the blood is the best proof. You cannot fool blood, so you cannot mess with it. So you can see the blood, it changes significantly after cleaning up all the toxicity. So yeah, that's yeah, it's not easy to convince if they are really stuck on that model, but I think slowly people can change.
Mm. So yeah, I feel like you can listen to all the marketing messages. You can listen to the people who are just repeating what they've heard all their lives. But at the end of the day, how your body reacts to your diet is the thing that's important, right? And how
Yeah,
you
yeah,
feel. Yeah.
yeah. But there are now in Australia, at least I know there are large groups of people who are becoming more and more aware of not to believe all the media and the narratives that are shown. So it may be about one subject, but with the diet also, I can explain to them, well, people who are coming to see me, they have that awareness. Like I say, the same thing has happened with the diet, with our food pyramid and all that. So then they can be a little bit more open to understanding.
Yeah, I definitely think the last 4 years has had an
Yeah,
influence on that kind of
yes,
thing.
yeah, yeah. It's been a very enlightening time for most people.
How do your peers react to this? Have you spoken to anyone in the same kind of practice as you about this?
Um, I don't to I don't have a lot of contacts with so-called peers. One thing is that I what I do is quite unique. I combine very unusual things, testing methods. I look at the palm. I do a palm analysis. I do pulse, tongue. Then I do this point test and blood. So very few people actually are doing this kind of assessments. So if I speak to a naturopath or I don't have much contact with GPs, but nutritionists and other people, they're still quite a lot, you know, stuck on that old model. So I don't have a lot of communication, but uh, yeah, so that's all I can say. I don't have a lot of communication with other practitioners at the moment. But once I start to maybe promote this a little bit more, what would happen is some patients have uh, another second practitioner, like I have a naturopath. So then they might contact me and say, "What is this diet that you told?" So then I can explain. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
people will. It depends on who's talking to them because my first priority is the patient's health. So it's not my opinion, but the patient's health. So when you come from that point, then the other practitioner will tend to understand it better, and then they know this person is not trying to push their opinion, their view, but it's for the patients, and also seeing the results is the main thing.
because yeah, the results should be driving
Yeah,
everything, right?
that's right. Yeah.
So, if you've got someone in front of you and they're okay with that, they're a bit skeptical,
Mhm.
but they're on board with giving it a try for a month or two.
Mhm.
How would you recommend they go about it?
um what I do is usually I get, if they have been on a very high carbohydrate plant diet, then I would have to go gently say, as many of your videos and a lot of participants who have been using, just get off the processed food first, slowly get out those. Now, as you said, I'm all or nothing. I cannot do halfway, so I do 100%. So a lot of people are not like that. So I have some protocols that they can ease into the diet. So I have a formula that I give. It's actually concentrated greens with some ketones in there. So when you start with that in the morning, you got the energy from the these are exogenous ketones. You get the energy from the ketone instead of glucose. So they can maintain, and their hunger is suppressed. They can wait until 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock to have their first meal. And I say, have some, at first you cannot, I'll say, have some vegetables and some meat, some protein. Then dinner, have some vegetables and proteins, more like a kind of like a ketogenic. And then after the next follow-up session, then I get them to limit their vegetables more and go more into a stricter, depending on each person's health issues as well. So we had to see.
So, Dr. Premaratna, how can people reach out to you? Do you have a website or a social
Y-
media?
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook, but I have a website. I can send you the link later. Yeah, that's the main way to communicate. Later on, I might have a YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, but it's more dedicated for meditation and healing. But I want to expand it into diet as well. And because I get so many questions from people going on diets on vitamins, or you see this advertisement, this is going to do all these amazing things. So I try to analyze it and explain to them, is it really true or not? So I thought I'll have a YouTube channel to have that kind of information. And I would definitely
Mm.
be, carnivore diet would be a part of that, a significant part of it, where that's what I'm experiencing. So when I benefit something from something, I have to share it.
Well, yeah, I'll include the links to those below. And Dr. Premaratna, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Dave. It's beautiful. What you're doing is amazing.